You're always there for my weird projects. Send me questions. I mean, there's like 2 people in this live stream. So for these 2 people, I will say what next video is about. So I will do a video that I've been wanting to do for years, but I never found the courage to do so, which is basically talking about productivity and your cycle and your period and what happens throughout the month with your productivity and your motivation levels because of your period. And basically how that really compromises your performance and the way you work. And I think that there's a lot of guilt attached to that. I think that we women especially, we think that because, we undergo through a cycle every single month and we have like 1 or 2 weeks per month where we are not able to produce as much as we want to and be as productive and be as motivated. We have a lot of feelings of guilt attached to those unproductive moments. And I really want to shed some light on that issue and really go through the scientific part and explain how that happens and how that impacts you and how you can actually use that in your favor instead of letting that create some self-deprecating thoughts about yourself and that kind of stuff. By the way, this is for people who are arriving. This was kind of this was actually for patrons only, but there wasn't enough people in here. So I'm opening the live stream for everyone. So the goal of this live stream is for me to answer your questions as long as I can answer them for about an hour or so. Usually these go very fast, so I'll try to answer as many questions as I possibly can. Okay, so I'll start reading the comments. Okay. Is there any part of your house that you're not looking forward to changing? For those who didn't know, I actually moved around a month ago, and this house is very empty, and I don't even have a dining table right now, so I'm eating on the countertop of my kitchen, so it's very empty, and there's a lot of things that still have to be done. There's a lot of renovations going, but I would say that if I had to choose a part of the house I'm not looking forward to, it's also the part of the house I'm also looking I'm looking forward to it because I'm very afraid to finally build a customized bookcase. I really want to do it because it's kind of a dream of mine, having like a big bookcase with the stairs and everything. But I'm also very afraid of doing so because I'm afraid it doesn't turn out as I want to. So it's a mixed feelings. It's the thing that I really want to do the most, and it's the thing that I'm kind of afraid of doing as well. I think that's not the answer you wanted, but that's the answer I've got for you. What did you study at college? So in Portugal, when you finish high school, you're immediately able to go to law school. So I finished high school at 18. I did 4 years of law school. And after 4 years of law school, I did a master's in transnational law. And as I was writing my thesis, I took 1 year of history classes. But I never finished those because I started working in the meantime. So I really want to restart that program as soon as I can, but I don't have a lot of time right now, but it's still something that I'm looking forward to, and I think it will happen soon enough. Was it hard to manage your time during college, university? It was very hard for me because when I went to college, I really didn't know how to study, and I was not a very disciplined person. I was organized, but only in theory. I didn't know how to put all of those organization methods into practice when I was in law school. So it was a bit hard to manage my time because I was not equipped with the tools and the knowledge to do so. But with practice, I was able to understand where I needed to put my effort in and where I need to put my time into. And, with a bit of practice and some pats on the back, that's really important, I was able to manage my time better, although it was always a struggle. And I always struggle with time management because as life changes, the way you manage your time also changes a lot. So I think it's an ever-evolving process. And once again, as I usually say, no guilt should be attached to that ever-changing process of managing your time better and better. What do you prefer more to keep you productive, planning digitally or physical paper planner? If I want to be practical, I think that a digital system really works for the best. I think it's way better if you want to reorganize things, if there's something that you really need to change, whether you have an appointment and you need to reschedule it, it's a lot easier to do it in digital format. However, I cannot lie that writing on a paper planner has a lot of, it's very relaxing and it's an experience on its own. So if I could pick a tool for efficiency, I would always say digital tools. If I could pick a tool for planning just for the sake of doing it, and because, it's very, very entertaining and because you really enjoy it, I would always say use a paper planner. That's why it's so hard to pick one over the other. I always use a hybrid system because of this. I usually use Google Calendar for major appointments. I use Notion for keeping a knowledge database and to-do lists. And when I say to-do lists, not daily tasks, I mean things that usually take months or even years to accomplish. And then I use a paper planner for daily tasks, or when I'm in a meeting and I want to take some notes, if it's a really important meeting where I'll have to, pass those notes on to to other people, I will usually type them on my computer. But in case it's just for me, I will write them down on my planner because I feel like I'm a lot more focused during the meeting if I'm writing on a paper planner instead of typing on my computer, because there are a lot of distractions involved. Okay, tons of questions. Can you talk about how to handle the transition from college to grad school or earning an advanced degree? Well, as I was saying, in Portugal, I think it's a little bit different because we don't have the college and then grad school system. We turn 18, we can apply to law school right away. We do 4 years of law school, then we are able to apply for a master's. After a master's, we either go even further in the education, or we usually just, start applying for a job. How did you learn English so well? First of all, I don't think I know English very well. I mean, I understand it, but I really have some issues speaking, right away without a script. I think that's why I don't do live streams as often as I would like to do them. But if I could attribute any kind of excellence in English, it would be to playing a lot of video games, actually, and watching a lot of movies when I was a child. And in Portugal, we have mostly we don't have translate in the sense that we don't have dubbed movies, we translate them. So I had to read a lot of subtitles, and I started just, understanding what those words meant in Portuguese because I was reading Portuguese while I was hearing English. And as I did it in a very regular, it was like a regular habit of mine, I just started understanding the connection between the words, and it just flows for me. And it always did as a child. But I think there's a lot to learn, and specifically for English grammar, I think I still have a lot to learn, because when I'm talking in a more spontaneous way, and you'll notice this while I'm speaking right now, sometimes I'll just have a lot of mistakes in my speech, and I still have a lot to learn. Are you still studying languages consistently? Not right now. So I think I left most languages on standby when the pandemic started, because that's when life got a little bit crazy and I had to, take a break, and I had to reorganize priorities, and I had to reorganize what I already did, because I feel like sometimes I'm a little bit lost between tasks and between goals and between priorities, and I really want to realign myself a long time. So I left most language learning, actually, in the beginning of the pandemic. I try to fiddle around with some, Duolingo lessons for German, some lessons for Japanese. I actually restarted a while ago, but then with the whole house thing, I paused them as well. But it's definitely on pause right now. That's why I've never, if you've noticed, for a year or something, I usually haven't spoken about language learning so far, because that's something that I put on hold. Do you often read different kinds of books in your free time? Yes, I do. I actually like to, I feel like if I'm always reading the same type of book, I get really bored really fast. So I usually have this rotation technique where I read like a classic, then I read like a self-help book, then I read a fantasy novel, then I read, a classic again. And I like to rotate the types of book I read because I get bored really fast. For instance, if I'm only reading classics, I get really bored of just reading classics. If I just read self-help books all at once, I feel like I'm not learning anything from them because it's way too much information in a short amount of time. If I'm just reading, fantasy novels, I'll start just mixing all of the stories up, and I'll just start mixing up the characters. Just becomes a big blob of information. So I like to rotate the types of books that I'm reading. Right now I'm reading The Secret History. It's really interesting. I'm like in page 90 or something. But this was my most productive year in reading, actually. I haven't read as much as I wanted to, but I'm trying to give myself some grace this year and really, take it slow. There's so many questions. Okay. Is there any productivity app that you suggest? Of course, there are a lot of them. So the big star for me is Notion. I really don't want to talk about Notion anymore because I have like 10 videos on Notion on my YouTube channel. Just a great full-fledged productivity app for anything that you want to do with it. You can organize basically anything in Notion. But for other recommendations, you have, for instance, Obsidian, which is great for students. It has a free version, and it's more like building your knowledge database. You have, for instance, let me think, you have Rome Research, which is similar to Obsidian, but it's a bit more powerful. And at the same time, I think that right now it's only paid version is available. So that not maybe a good investment if you have other free options available for you. You also have ClickUp, which is more focused on managing tasks and managing projects. So, it also has a mix of knowledge database because it does feature the knowledge database functions inside the app, but the core of ClickUp is more task management. So if you have a lot of projects going on, you have to micromanage a lot of tasks daily, then I would suggest ClickUp, which also is free. They have a free for life version, which they like to advertise a lot on YouTube. So that's also a good one. And if you're a student, you have a more simplified app, which is called Shovel. And Shovel is more like organizing your schedule than organizing tasks to study sessions, your grades. So it's really more focused for students. And it's also really great, but it's a little bit more limited because if you're accustomed to Shovel and then you stop using it because you stop studying, then you really can't carry over that information to a professional environment. Do you do a live broadcast every month? No, but I will start doing so. That's why I call this the July live stream. It's actually the first one. I'm sorry. I really want to start doing a monthly live broadcast because although, I have a lot of videos uploaded right now and I try to answer as many questions and talk about as many topics as I can, there's always information that I'm not able to carry over to my videos. And I really want to have a way, like a platform to talk to you face-to-face and to answer your questions live as you actually have those questions. And not just, adding those questions to my list of videos and then have to work on a full-on video to answer that question. I think this can be a little bit easier for you and also for me. So I want to do it way more often. So yeah, maybe monthly, even why not twice per month, I will say. It's very easy to set up for me. I just need an hour of my time to do this. So I think this will really happen more often right now. How to get focused on something for longer periods of time. This is very hard. It's also very hard for me still. It's very difficult for me to be focused for a long time. It's usually all about tricks. You need to trick yourself into being focused. One thing that I really like to do is, use an app that completely blocks my phone. I know this is a classic tip, but it's classic because it really works. So I usually use Forest for this. I think it's really fun. It looks really pretty. So it's, just kind of a glow up for your work routine. And you basically plant a tree anytime you want to have a productive, 1 hour session or 25 minutes. And if you leave the app, in case you have deep focus mode activated, basically that will kill your tree. So you can't go to Facebook, you can't go to Instagram, you can't watch anime while you're studying. I remember that video that was uploaded a while ago where someone basically studied and then they watched anime for 10 minutes or something, or an episode of anime. I really understand that. I would love to do that, but I don't think I would ever have the discipline to watch one episode and then go back to what I was doing. So I just keep it very simple and use more of a classic Pomodoro method. But I never use a 25-minute break. I usually go for around 45 minutes of deep work and 15 minutes of break. That works the best for me. Did you get married? Not yet. In Portugal, we're still in lockdown. Yeah, it's not really happening right now. Not yet. What's your favorite book of all time? Well, I usually answer this question saying that my favorite book of all time is probably A Man's Search for Meaning, because it's a well-rounded book that really adds value into your life when you read it, and it really changes the way you see things. But there's a lot of great books out there, so I think it's really unfair for most of those books to say there's one of them that is my favorite of all time. But if I had to make an overall recommendation for a single book, I would say Man's Search for Meaning for sure. What do you do in your spare time? I work a lot. I have a full-time job, and then I have this YouTube channel, and then I like to read, I like to listen to music, I like to play video games. I would say that I like to hang out with my friends, but that's not really our reality anymore. And of course, I have to do all the boring household chores, and I have to walk my dog, and I have to exercise, and all that very, very fun stuff. Is there any secret in your red nail paint? No, these are gel nails. This is gel nail polish. I get them done every 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and that's basically the secret. I know a lot of people who ask me what's the nail polish you're wearing. I have absolutely no idea, because usually the lady who does my nails, I ask her for specific colors, and then she mixes the colors. As I'm saying, like, oh, I want this to be more pink, I want this to be redder, I want this to be lighter, and then she just mixes them up. And so there's no specific color. I cannot recommend you any specific color because she just mixes them for me, but they're gel nails. So I can't, my fingers can't grow. My nails can't grow that long. So these are all fake. I'm so sorry to disappoint you. How can I convert my unorganized life to an organized life? So take it one step at a time. If you want to go from a very, if you're feeling like you're procrastinating all the time, you feel like you're not doing your work with, the pace that you'd like to do your work, just do one thing at a time. Just take it slow, schedule one focused session of deep focus work for a day. Do that session. Make it a short session, like a 20-minute session. And then, next week, schedule 2 sessions. Take it slow. Really make a list of things you want to take care of and tick those things off one at a time without feeling like you suddenly need to revamp your whole life from scratch, because that's really not achievable. That'll create a lot of stress that will just, overwhelm you, and it will not be very beneficial for you on the long run. Are you planning to make any video on sustainability? That would be awesome, by the way. Yes, I really want to start making, different kind of videos, because sometimes there's only so much you can say about, productivity and note-taking methods and stuff like that. But yeah, I would really like to make them. The first thing that I would say I would like to make would be a video on sustainable swaps in the kitchen, because that's something that I've been really into. I'm currently making my own cleaning products right now, which has been a fun learning experience, even if it doesn't sound really fun. It is. Knowing that you are able to accomplish so much with like 3 different cleaning and natural cleaning products. So I think that's a great idea for a video, although I really don't know how to set that video up and how I would structure that video properly for it to be entertaining, for it to be helpful. But it's something that I really have been thinking of, and I want to definitely incorporate it into my YouTube schedule, because I think that I definitely need more variety in my videos. Are you still following law? Do you want to be a lawyer? I'm not a lawyer, but I still work in the law field. I'm a legal advisor. So I can't, I never did the bar exam, as people call it in the States, because I don't want to be a lawyer, but I like law and I still work as a legal advisor. So at least in my opinion, I do all of the fun stuff, but I still do it. Yeah, I'm focused now on financial law, which is not really interesting maybe for you, but it is for me. But I'm still working. I did not abandon my degree to be a full-time YouTuber, by the way. I'm still working a 9-to-5 job. It's something that exists. I'm really confused about my career path in college, but I'm 16. Should I not worry about it right now? Yeah, do not worry about that. When I was 16, I thought I was going to be a digital designer. So life got really different, right? I've changed career paths more times than I remember. Even when I went to college and I went into law school, I wanted to be a judge, then I wanted to be a lawyer, then I wanted to be a consultant for a tax company. It was something that happened. I really thought that was like the best job in the world. And then I thought of being a professor. And then I became a legal advisor for financial law, which is something that not in a million years I would think I would do if you asked me 5 years ago. So, it's not like not worrying. You should worry in the sense that you should plan and you should think of different scenarios for the future. But don't worry in the sense that don't believe that the decisions you make today will absolutely impact everything down the road. Of course, they will have an impact. Of course, they will allow you to go down a certain path and they will block other paths for you. But that doesn't mean that the decision you take today will be, will completely reflect on what happens to you in 10 years. So try to take it slow and make the best decision possible for you right now. But don't try to think and imagine about every single scenario that may happen in the future. Trying to read new questions. A lot of people are talking about how to concentrate. I know that I say this a lot, but there's not, a single method for you to focus and concentrate on your work. I think there are a few tricks you can use to be more concentrated. For instance, I mentioned Forest a while back, using the Forest app and using the timer method and blocking distractions, disabling notifications. Those are all things that will help you down the road. But first and foremost, if your motivation isn't there and you feel absolutely no joy in what you're doing, and you think that what you're doing absolutely will not help you down the road and will not allow you to be closer to your goals, that focus will be very hard to achieve, and it will be very hard to mimic. So of course you can employ a lot of tricks, but if in your gut you know that what you're doing right now will have no impact on your goals and your ambition, then it will be very hard to get that focus. But it's also important for you to know that I really do not like the sentence "fake it till you make it," because I don't think you should fake it. But of course, will be, stones during the road, on your road, in the road. There will be stages down the road. That's a better way to put it. Where you will not like to do what you're doing. It's still a requirement for you. So just try to think of your ultimate goal down the road. The problem is, if what you're doing is not leading you to that ultimate goal, then you should rethink what you're doing right now. So for instance, if you're in college, maybe you're not really in the right place right now and you need to rethink it. And I think there should be no guilt attached to that. And I think you should give yourself some grace. One thing is for you to take a whole degree and then you don't like a class or you don't like 2 classes. But if you feel like you're trying to major in something, you don't like any single class related to that major, why are you majoring in that thing? Of course, that may feel a lot of pressure, but maybe that's where you should start approaching the right people about who's pressuring you and why they are pressuring you, and try to really take yourself out of a toxic situation. Follow heart or passion. I usually, heart or passion. I think, do you mean head or heart? Heart or head? I would say a mix of both, if that's what you're saying. I think that it's really important for you to have your head on top of your shoulders and really take rational decisions in your life. But I think that, as I was saying before, if you feel like you're engaging in a toxic relationship with yourself, actually, if you're pressuring yourself to do things that you feel zero passion about, I think that you should move on and try to find something that really conciliates both rational thoughts and both your passion and your creativity, because usually there will be something down the road that allows you to do that. Do you think being a YouTuber makes you less employable? I'm employed right now, so actually, by the way, when I was applying for jobs and before I got the job that I actually have as a legal advisor, I always insert my YouTube channel on my resume. And it's always a great way to start a conversation during an interview. It's something that every single interviewer asked me about when I was applying for jobs. They're like, what the hell is this? Do you have a YouTube channel? Are you paid for this? Do you still do this? What the hell do your videos talk about? So no, I never felt like being a YouTuber made me less employable. Most people that I talked with and that had to employ me or not, they also saw it as a sign of entrepreneurship and independence, because I started YouTube when I was 19 years old. So usually it's actually a good thing. So I don't know if you're trying to be a YouTuber or something, or whether you're afraid of doing so, but at least in my personal experience, I found absolutely no problem in actually showing the people I was trying to work with that I had a YouTube channel. Where do you live? I live in Portugal. We're currently in lockdown again, so it's very, well, we'll not talk about COVID in this live stream. It's too depressing. Have you used a planner with a bullet journal simultaneously? I think I did when I started bullet journaling, because when I started bullet journaling, I had a Filofax planner. Yeah, in personal size, I had a cream-colored Filofax planner, And I remember that I used, the weekly agenda to schedule appointments. And I always had the bullet journal with me to write down to-do lists and more random thoughts. So yeah, I used the both of them, but it wasn't really a good system because, when I had to write something immediately when I was hearing it, I was like, should I write this down on my bullet journal? Should I write this down on my planner? So it was a bit confusing. I think it's best to simplify your system as much as possible if you can. What is your opinion on following passion or just follow better paying job? I have a lot of questions about jobs in this live stream. I think that what I'm doing right now is very balanced. So if I could say that YouTube is my passion, I would say that I'm following my passion, but at the same time, I also have a job, and it's a paying job that was a consequence, basically, of my law degree. So I'm doing both of them. I'm actually conciliating a passion with a more rational thinking, because I see a lot of people on YouTube that when they reach a certain level of subscribers or a certain level, of views per day, which basically dictates a bit of your revenue, they just, quit their jobs. I don't think I will ever quit my job because of YouTube, independently of how many subscribers I have, independently of how much I earn in YouTube. And that's only because, first of all, I really do not think, please do not quote me on this, I really do not think that being a YouTuber is something sustainable, because YouTube basically dictates everything for you and you have absolutely no control over the platform. So if I was quitting my job after studying for 7 years in law school, I was quitting my job as a legal advisor to depend on a platform that I do not control and that likes to change its algorithm every 6 months, I think I would not be able to sleep at night. So I like that balance. I like to be a YouTuber. I like to be a legal advisor. Of course, it's hard. Of course, it's, forces me to micromanage my time a lot. And it's really hard sometimes, but I prefer it to be hard on my schedule and hard on my sleep than being constantly afraid of having this platform suddenly disappear or demonetize my videos, or just have a regular job without being able to pursue any of my passions. So I like the balance. So if I could give any kind of recommendations for people who have a passion but are really trying to still have a stable job, just keep that job and try to work on that passion on the weekends, on late nights, on early mornings, on lunch breaks. Find someone to help you, but really try to balance both of them before you make a big decision, because life changes a lot and it's really hard for you to completely be able to anticipate all changes, all economical change. I can't talk. All economic changes. For instance, COVID. Right? When COVID started, I had a big decrease in revenue on YouTube. If I didn't have a paying job and a typical 9-to-5 job, it would be a little bit hard for me, especially because I was saving for a down payment on a house. So that kind of insecurity, it's not for me. I can't live like that. So that's why I have, a regular job, because it compensates for any kind of loss that YouTube puts me through. So if you're trying to decide between a passion and a more rational decision, try at least to conciliate both of them in the beginning. And then as the months pass, then try to understand whether you would like to opt for one or the other. What's your opinion on psychotherapy? I never had any problems with that. I was never, I have no experiences on psychotherapy. I think if it helps someone, I think that's great, actually. So that's not really my field, and I will not express any type of opinion that I have no knowledge about, because that drives me crazy. Slow living or fast living, which should you prefer? I mean, I do prefer slow living. I prefer the principle, I prefer how it makes me feel. But fast living is a reality, and it's very hard for us to completely say, okay, now I will live very slowly and I will be able to, meditate every single day and do yoga in the morning and have like 1 hour breakfast because, life is not happening. So I'm able to choose. No, of course not. If you have a regular job, for instance, if you're in college, most of your days will be fast-paced days. So my only tip for you is if you have a fast life, try as much as possible to slow down when you have that control, which you will not have for very long. So when you have it, try to, pat yourself on the back, give yourself some grace and slow down a little bit. But of course, that if I could prefer something one over the other, I would say slow life, although I know that the kind of content that I post really goes the opposite direction because that's how the world is going. So I'm trying to help in the sense that I'm trying to give you tips and advice for current world situations and not ideal situations. I cannot give advice for people who work at home all the time or for people, who don't have are not trying to build a career, because a lot of people are, and I really don't want to cut my content into slow living just because of that. But yeah, once again, I think it's a balance, both of them. Both of them are very important nowadays for you. Do you think bullet journaling has more positive or negative impact on users? I think it depends on how you see bullet journaling. Bullet journaling is one of those things that I mention a lot that can go, if you keep it simple, it can be a very powerful productivity machine. But if you are bound to what you see on Pinterest, on Studygram, on StudyTube, on StudyBlur, and you see all those colorful templates, all those colorful spreads, people who doodle on their bullet journals and they create wonderful lettering. I think that's amazing. And I wish I could do that, but I can't. So what happened to me at least was I was into bullet journaling, but I had so much information on bullet journaling and I had, so many visual temptations on pens that I wanted to buy. And then there was the milled liner craziness a couple of years ago that it became kind of toxic for me when I was in college, because I think that I spent more time trying to decorate the bullet journal than actually use it. So in general, and only in general, I would say that taking into account how, social media is looking at bullet journals right now, I would say it can be more negative for its user than positive. But once again, it depends on your personal filters. If you're able to filter all of that out and you're able to look at that and not try to mimic that all the time, I think it can be very beneficial for you and for your productivity. Do you think law is a career with good mobility potential? No, not at all. Of course, it depends on the specific field of law you're trying to study. If you're studying international law, for instance, which I did when I was in my master's, of course, that has a higher mobility potential because I could use all of that knowledge in many countries. If you belong to the EU, for instance, a big part of the legislation will be common to all member states. So once again, mobility can be a little bit easier. But if you're trying to, for instance, specialize in criminal law, in civil law or procedure, it will be very hard for you to, study all of that again when you move to a different country. So I would say that if you really value mobility and you really value a law career, really invest in international and transnational classes, for instance, or kind of program, and that will really differentiate your curriculum and will allow you to probably because I never moved to a different country, but at least in my experience and from people that I know, I think that will help you a lot more in going to a different country to work. Do you enjoy working with the platform CuriosityStream? Is that the one you're also working on? So CuriosityStream is one of my usual sponsors. They're basically like the Netflix of documentaries, and they have like more than 1,000 documentaries on every single thing you may think of. But I think that what you're mentioning is not CuriosityStream. I think you're mentioning Nebula. And Nebula is basically, kind of a private YouTube that a lot of us creators created with our agency. And what it does is we have all of our videos in there. We have exclusive content. There are exclusive series of videos right there. And basically, it's a paid platform where we upload everything. And we are not subject to YouTube's algorithm, which kills a lot of videos on the road and really stops a lot of people from making videos because they just demonetize videos right away. So Nebula is that platform. It's just a platform where we upload our videos, and we have a lot more freedom in terms of content. Now, yes, I really like to work with Nebula because I'm part of Nebula. So it's an interesting deal. Best of best and worst of worst thing about YouTube and Law Job. Worst thing about YouTube is, for instance, right now I have a big problem with YouTube, which is my views have been lower than they've been like in the past 3 years or something. I don't know what's going on. And nobody's able to explain what is going on with YouTube. So definitely the worst thing about YouTube is you not knowing what the hell is going on. And you don't know why your views are decreasing. You don't know why there are people who are not subscribing anymore. So it's really hard to manage, and it's really stress inducing because you can't control it. And if you're a control freak like I am, then it will be a bit hard for you to sleep at night if you see all of your views decreasing all the time, and all of your subscribers decreasing, and everything is decreasing, and all the pointers are red. So that's the worst part of YouTube, definitely. The worst of the worst about my job, I would say that, what's the worst of the worst about my job? Well, I think that once again, being a control freak is a little bit hard. So in my job, I have to work with a lot of people, and I have to, do as they say, and I have to have their schedules, and I have to go to the meetings at the time they want. So being a control freak and not being able to organize and plan things as I would like to, that's the worst part of the job, is actually having a lot of people you rely on. While on YouTube, although I do rely on the platform, I do not rely on anyone else to make decisions. So if I want to make you about, topic X, I can make that video. No one is going to stop me. And on my job, it's different because I work with a lot of people. So definitely there's kind of a duality there. YouTube is very lonely. It's a very lonely job. A job as a legal advisor is not a lonely job. So you have to deal with people. And as an introvert, that can be very hard indeed. Best of the best, YouTube flexibility, being able to work anytime I want, anywhere I want, and be able to have a platform where I can say whatever I want and be able to help people as well. And the best thing about being a legal advisor, definitely feeling like you are contributing to society, at least in my specific case. It really feels that, intellectual void, because I'm working on my chosen career path and I'm studying law. I have to constantly study and research and write, which is something that I really like to do. And also there's a lot more financial stability than on YouTube. Thank you. A lot of people are greeting me. Thank you. A lot of love to you too. Do you have tips for a full-time worker that's starting a uni degree at the same time? Once again, give yourself a lot of grace. Understand that you will have to micromanage your time. So you will have to use those tiny little breaks, and you'll see how powerful they are, you'll understand that, for instance, if you pause in your study break for 10 minutes, maybe those 10 minutes can be great to prepare a meal or to clean your room or to, do the laundry. And sometimes in your lunch break, if you're working, you'll find out that it may be best for you to use, half an hour of your lunch break to study or to prepare a class than to just keep scrolling on your phone because you're so tired of your job in the morning. So micromanaging, I mean, it's not exciting, it's not ideal, but I do believe it will be part of your reality. So if you start practicing that micromanaging right now and really working with calendar blocking, with calendar batching, I think it's best for you to start right now and really, allowing yourself to be more flexible with how you manage your time, because when the time comes for you to have those uni classes, that uni work, and have that job on top of that, you'll find out that any kind of practice and training you have in micromanaging your time will really come in handy. Your favorite fantasy books? My favorite fantasy books will always be anything that Brandon Sanderson writes. Anything. I really like, of course, the Mistborn trilogy. But recently, I read, what is it called? One of them is called The Warbreaker. Wait, let me see. What is it called? If someone knows, tell me. I don't know what's the name of the series. So there's Warbreaker, and then of course there's the other series that I still haven't read, the last book, which is the Stormlight Archive. So Stormlight Archive is really great as well. So anything that Brandon Sanderson writes will always be my favorite fantasy book. I don't really mind. I also like Elantris, which was his first book, and it's a standalone book. And I think it's a really great way for you to start reading Brandon Sanderson, because you don't have to commit to a whole series. And although it was his first writing experience, I think it was actually his first published writing experience, it really conveys the type of characters he likes to write, and it conveys the type of story he likes to write. So if you enjoy Elantris, you'll probably like all of his work. If you don't enjoy Elantris, maybe you shouldn't commit to buying a whole, 2,000-page series and start reading all of that, because you'll probably be wasting your time. There's someone here saying, I used to exercise between breaks or take a shower. Yeah, that's the kind of micromanaging that actually happens. Usually when I finish my work in the afternoon before I start working on YouTube, that's when I will exercise and shower. So it's a really weird time, because it's like 6 p.m. and I'll just, start doing a workout on my office. But that's the life of people who are doing two things at the same time. You just have to accept that. It will be your reality. Yeah, exactly. Stormlight Archive. I'm terrible at remembering book names. It's terrible. What's your thoughts about I no longer aspire to have a career type of video? I do not like to judge anyone. I really do not like to judge anyone, but there's something that I really want to say back to the world. And that's another kind of rant that I really want to make in this kind of face-to-face video, which is, we can't all be YouTubers. We can't all be, business people. We can't all be entrepreneurs. We can't all have courses online. That's not how life works. So if you're portraying the message that you should all start quitting your job, then who the hell will do those jobs, right? I like to be a worker. So I do not imagine myself being a YouTuber forever. And I do not think that it's right for some people, of course. There's a lot of people who do not portray this message, but there are a lot of people who seem like they, glorify the notion of being self-employed or being a YouTuber or being. I really do not understand that, and there's nothing, glorious about it. So you no longer aspiring to have a career. Of course, it will be highly beneficial for some types of people, but it may be the wrong message to portray, because careers are still very real and careers are still needed in today's world. Not all jobs, not all services will be adaptable to being self-employed. You still have to have a career in some situations. And people who actually follow that path are not lesser beings than the people who are magically becoming YouTubers. So that's what I think. Of course, that if you have that experience of not wanting a career anymore, that's totally valid, and there's a lot of room for you to grow. But do not believe that your happiness will, you will feel happy because you don't have a career, because there's a lot of people with careers who are perfectly happy. I am happy with my career as a legal advisor, and that's because I'm actually able to manage my time in a way that allows me to do other things outside of that schedule. But definitely having a career is still something valid, and it's still something to pat yourself on the back for, and it should be applauded. So yep, that's what I think about those videos and that trend of quit your job, your life will be better. If you quit your job, it will not be better. That's not how life works. Ever thought about sharing your wedding with us, or do you want it to be more private? So right now, I'm still wondering whether there will be a wedding, because once again, we are in lockdown in Portugal, and my wedding is scheduled for October. So I do not know if it will happen or not. About sharing, that's something I remembered thinking of back in the day before COVID happened. I don't really think it will happen, because that's not the kind of channel that I do have. And although I want to share more, I do not believe I want to share that much. Because for me, sharing a wedding is not just sharing myself, it's sharing my whole family with it. And I'm not really comfortable about showing that very personal side of my life with, although I love you because you support this channel, I don't know all of you. And when I have something public on YouTube, anyone can see it. It doesn't have to be a fan. It can be someone who comes across that video randomly. So suddenly I have this very specific private part of my life on the internet. I'm not really sure I'm into that. Do you know Brazil? Nope, I've never been to Brazil. Are you investing? I'm not investing. That just stresses me out. And investing in Portugal is a whole thing. So it's very different from investing in the States. Someone saying, I just think YouTube is such a fickle platform, which can easily fizzle away over a weekend. It is. I mean, probably not over a weekend, but I know of channels that die in a couple of days, just like that. And sometimes YouTube doesn't even know what's going on. So it is very unstable. Where do you learn all about study methods and planning? On the internet. As you may think, there are a lot of videos which come right from my head. They're like an output of my imagination. But as you know, I make a lot of videos, for instance, on things that I hear online, on things that I read online. And of course, I also have a bunch of videos which are based on books that I've read on self-improvement, on productivity, personal finances, even like this week's video. So I gather inspiration from a bunch of different sources. How many how many languages do you speak? And I was not even able to say that straight. Two. I'm able to speak Portuguese and English. I do not speak Spanish, although I kind of understand it because I'm Portuguese. Best way to maintain a long-term study routine. I would say that if you want to really maintain a long-term study routine, you really need to customize that study routine to your particular chronotype. If you haven't seen my video on chronotypes, you should go see it because it's really important. But basically, just like trying to summarize it very quickly, everyone has a different chronotype. Chronotype is something that is actually in your genes. And of course, you can try to, change it up a bit, but the core of your chronotype is kind of there and you can't change it. And it basically dictates whether you are someone who is very productive in the morning, someone who is very productive in the evening, or someone who kind of has their productivity aligned with how the sun rises, how the sun sets. And then there's also the dolphin chronotype, who is someone who needs to work in short spans of time with a lot of breaks, and they have a lot of trouble sleeping, for instance. So I think that maintain a very regular study routine. First of all, try to understand what your chronotype is. There are actually tests online on your chronotype. And when you figure out what your chronotype is, you need to really understand when is your peak productivity time. And according to your peak productivity time, all of your study routine should be around that peak productivity time. So if you're a night owl, for instance, you are valid as well. So if you're a night owl, you can be as productive as a morning person. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. But if you are, and if you feel like you work your best in the evening, then of course you should be studying in the evening. You should not, force yourself to be a morning person, because your body is telling you you are not. So don't try to be something that you cannot be, because your genes are telling you, you have this thing called a PER3, and you need to be a night owl. So if you are, be a night owl. If you're a morning person, do not try to be a night owl, but really try to understand what you are, because when you do understand that, you'll be able to create a schedule that is really beneficial to your productivity levels. It's really dark in here. Okay, perfect. Do you still have a blog? I do have a blog, but it's on the works. I changed my provider. I changed my platform. So I changed the place where my blog was being hosted, and I'm still working on it. But my blog will be exclusive to patrons only, and that's because I need to support the platform where the blog is without the ads. So patrons financing the blog is a way for me to avoid placing a bunch of ads and sponsored articles, which is something that I really do not like, because I have enough sponsors on YouTube as it is to have more sponsors on a blog. So the blog will be closed to patrons only, and I hope it will be ready in the next couple of months. What do you think about hustle culture in universities? We love to be productive, but millennials aren't the generation of burnout. I hate the hustle culture. And I know that for a lot of people, this may seem very weird, because this is a channel about productivity, but I actually like more mindful and intentional productivity. I don't like to work just for the sake of working. I have better things to do with my time, and you should have as well. So I really do not like the hustle culture. I don't think it's beneficial. I don't think that working more just for the sake of working will actually allow you to get closer to your goals. But unfortunately, that's our standard, and we need to adapt to that standard. So even if I say I do not like it, if I want to be someone completely away from society, of course I can be, that's my choice. But if I want to have a job, for instance, I need to understand that it will be very hard for me to preach about slow living, for instance, and avoid the whole hustle culture and the hustle mentality that exists both in college and in the workplace. But of course, we need to adapt. And as I was saying before, although the hustle culture exists, what I believe is we should try as much as possible to have some slow living methods and employ some slow living techniques during the time that we actually are able to control. So, for instance, during your weekends, during your breaks, when you leave work, before you begin work, try to invest in some slow living, because that will make the hustle of your day to day a little bit more easy to, to manage. Okay, are are Pomodoro methods useful? It depends. It depends on the Pomodoro you set. So the classic Pomodoro method is 25 minutes work, 5 minutes rest. For me, that doesn't work at all. So what I usually do is 45 minutes of work, 15 minutes of rest. And that's how I usually work. But of course, that means you need to experiment a lot with how your brain works and how your brain is able to function and manage and process information. I think it really depends. But if you are mentioning Pomodoro methods in a way of setting a specific timer to do deep work and then set a specific timer for a break, I do think it works. But I really do not agree with the 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes break. It really doesn't work for me. Do you want to do some live study with me, Sales? I do. I'm actually, so as I was saying, and I said this a million times in this live stream, I have a full-time job, I'm working on YouTube, but I really, really, really miss studying, and I really miss college. So one thing I'm trying to do now is take some online courses. They're like 1 month or 2 weeks, and I would like to incorporate some live study with me sessions while I'm taking those courses and taking notes and studying. So that's something you are probably going to see later this summer, I believe, in early September, something like that. But it's definitely something I'm trying to work on. What's the time now there? It's 9 p.m. right now in Portugal. And people saying they were accidentally unsubscribed for my channel. As I was saying, being a YouTuber is hard sometimes. You're actually trying to create, a platform and a community where your subscribers actually know you published a video, and then YouTube's like, you're not going to be subscribed to this girl anymore. I'm just going to unsubscribe you right now. That's why you need a job. That's why I have a job. That's because YouTube is really moody sometimes. I'm guessing online courses will be related to law. Actually, no, they're completely random courses. One of them is called, what is it called? It's about, I don't remember the name, but it's about how flowers and plants are pictured in the arts, in the fine arts, and how flowers and plants, some plants are like symbols of something, and how that meaning evolved in fine arts over time. So completely random, right? Nothing to do with law, completely not useful for my career. But in Portugal, fortunately, education is a lot cheaper than in the States, for instance. So it's a lot easier for us to be able to actually enroll in these courses and have an extra degree, because even if education is not paid, it's, in my opinion, of course, very cheap when you compare it, for instance, to the States. Would you recommend law school? Well, I can only speak from my experience in Portugal, right? I don't know where you're from, but in Portugal, yes, I guess. The thing is, there are a lot of people going to law school nowadays, and although we have way too many law firms. It can be a bit hard to actually find the job that you want to work in at. I think you need to be very passionate about law, because it can be a very, very, very frustrating degree, because there's a lot of work. Sometimes it's way too abstract. Sometimes it's way too boring. In Portugal, a law degree takes 1 year longer than all of the other degrees, except medical school, of course. But of course, I think it depends on your passion. If you're like, maybe I can go to law school, but maybe I can do something else. If you're not sure, maybe it's not for you. Maybe, because there's a lot of people studying law that are really passionate about law. And if you're not passionate about it, and when you see that passion, it's very overwhelming, because, law school can be a very toxic, different in terms of, and I found it very different in terms of how, everyone dealt with success and everyone dealt with failure. So law school can be a bit toxic. So that's something you need to understand before you try to enroll in law school. Were you always extremely organized? I was very organized when I was a young girl. Yep. And then I stopped being organized when I was about 13 years old. But when I was like 8 years old, you know what I like to watch? Martha Stewart. Yep. I was like, my God, so many boxes and so many organizers. And then there was a stage in my life when I was like 7 years old, where I came back from school every single day, and the only thing I wanted to do was organize and then reorganize my room all over again. But then that stopped. And when I was in high school, I was actually a mess in terms of organization. That's when I completely stopped knowing. I really didn't know how to study anymore. And I became more organized in college. So it was kind of back and forth. When are you getting married? I hope I will get married this year. Who knows? We don't know anymore. It's COVID life. Nothing is for sure now. Do you miss unmasked life before the pandemic? Yes. And I miss it because I took the pandemic very seriously. So of course, I have left the house in 1 year, but I never went to a restaurant. I never went to a coffee shop. I never went to a concert. I never, I didn't do anything for a year. So yeah, I do miss unmasked life before the pandemic. But I will be vaccinated next week. So that's good news, right? I'm late, but do you edit your own videos? No, I do not. My editor is Mary Among Stories, and she's in the chat right now. She edits all of my videos because I do not have the time to do so. And I actually hate video editing, and she knows that. I really hate it. I don't know how people are able to say that video editing is fun, because it's not. It's not fun. It's so stressful. I do not edit my videos anymore. I stopped editing videos in 2019, I think. Right? Mary, was it in 2019? It was, right? 2 years ago. That's when I started working. Yeah, 2019. That's when she started editing all of my videos, and she does a great job at that. I hope you're not overly stressed. I try not to be, but usually I am. How do you manage to keep a soothing voice in your videos? I do not think I have a soothing voice, and that's because I have asthma. And I use a lot of inhalers that make my voice really raspy. So right now I'm having a lot of trouble in speaking. And I've actually had to, postpone live streams because of this. And when I have to record a voiceover, I can't take my inhaler the day before, because if I do, my voice will be so raspy, I will not be able to record a voiceover. So I do not agree with the soothing voice. There's a lot of people saying, oh, your voice sounds so relaxing. That's probably because I'm having a lot of trouble speaking. So that's my secret. Asthma. That's so depressing. Tips for first-time college students. Don't stress too much about college, because your career path will change a lot. Your major will probably change. The way you study, the way you manage your time, everything is going to change. Your friends will change. Everything will change. So try to take it one step at a time. Try to live one day at a time. Don't freak out too much about your failures and your changes, because this is all a big experience. Even I have asthma, probably you're lucky. Did you study in the US or in the UK? I didn't study in the US or in the UK. Actually, I've never been to the US or the UK. So I've always studied in Portugal. The only time I studied in English was during my master's. I took a master's in transnational law, and all of our courses were taught in English, because most of our teachers came from the States, from the UK, from other European countries, and all of our classes were in English. But that's the only time in my life where I had classes in English. I've never studied abroad, unfortunately. Yeah. Would you recommend preparing over the summer for courses or just taking time off completely? A hybrid. I would say that in the beginning of your summer vacation, you should definitely rest, and you should definitely try to, get all of that stress out of your system and really, just enjoy your vacation. At least for me, I started preparing for college, or, a new semester about 2 weeks before the semester started. That's when I started, searching for classes, searching for textbooks, trying to buy textbooks in advance, usually secondhand, because my God, they're so expensive. I try to download my syllabus, just check, the topics, the chapters of the things I would learn throughout the semester, but definitely enjoy your vacation. But start preparing like 1 or 2 weeks ahead, because that will really help you getting a head start in your semester. How is food planning going during lockdown? It's terrible. I mean, because I came from a situation where I had a full-time job, and I went to my workplace cafeteria, and I remember that every single meal that I ate there cost 2 euros. That was the price of my meals every single day. So of course, for 2 euros, I would not meal prep, because I would never make something as cheap as that. So I never had to rely on prepping food for lunches. But right now, of course I do. So it's very hard to manage that part. I cannot order food right now from Uber Eats like I did before, because I moved out of the capital, and now I'm in a place where there's no Uber Eats. So I cannot even escape the food prepping thing, or else I would just eat sandwiches for the rest of my life. But what I usually do is I either prep the food the night before, or because I'm really not someone who likes to be productive at night, I will usually prep my lunch in the morning, just put it in storage containers, and then eat it during my lunch break. But it's really hard. It's, for me, it's definitely the worst part of working from home. If you weren't studying law, what would you study? As I was saying, when I was writing my master's thesis, I studied history for a year. It was really fun. But before I went to law, I thought I wanted to go to digital design, right? It's so weird. I don't think I would be a great digital designer. I just said right now that I hate editing. And all of those tasks just bring me a lot of stress. But history is something that I absolutely love and I would like to pursue. Of course, on my, as a hobby, not as a full-time job. But if I didn't go to law, I think that history will probably be a good match for me. You really aren't a native English speaker. No, I'm Portuguese. Do you meal prep? Yeah, just like I said. I do not like to cook. I hate cooking. The thing is, I know I need to, and I know it's good for me, so I actually cook, but I don't like it. This is adult life. You don't have to do only things you like. Sometimes you really have to do things you don't enjoy, and that's perfectly fine. But it does happen. Meal prepping, it has to happen. What was your plan for world domination? I published a video a couple of years ago where I had like this Notion page called World Domination. And it's not actually it's not really world domination. That's so interesting that people remember that. So that was basically me making a plan for. I remember that was during the time where I thought I wanted to be a professor. The good news is I can't be one because I do not have the grades for that. So my world domination plan was me like, okay, if this does not work out, then I'll start applying for this job. And in the meantime, while I apply for this job, one thing I will do is study for this thing because this thing will get me in that job. So my world domination was my world. So it was my professional life. It was not the whole world domination. But it's very interesting that you remember that. You give off the vibes of a doctor. If you didn't mention law, I would have guessed medicine is your profession. I would die if I was a doctor. The other day, I cut my finger with a knife, and my kitchen is all white. So I saw a lot of blood splattered on the walls, and I was almost passing out. So I would never be able to be a doctor. Falas português? Falo sim, senhora, estou a falar português convosco. A minha voz é muito diferente em português. E não vou dizer nada de especial porque as pessoas que não percebem português depois vão achar que eu estou a dizer coisas muito importantes, mas não estou só a falar em português. For people who are not Portuguese, I just said a bunch of random things in Portuguese, so people from Portugal and people from Brazil know that I actually speak Portuguese. It's not just like, oh, I'm from Portugal, but you've never seen me speaking Portuguese ever. Typing or handwriting? Typing is faster, handwriting is way more fun. So that's how it is. Mariana, I used to read a lot in the past, but I've lost it now. Any tips? Yeah, so first tip, rotate the types, the genres of books you read. As I was saying in the beginning of the live stream, what I do is self-help or self-development, one book, then I stop that, then I go to a fantasy book, I stop that, then I go to a classic, stop that, then I can go to like a romance or something of the sort, then I start all over again. And what this does is it keeps me interested. I never get into the rhythm of just like reading classics or self-help because I get bored really fast. And something else I do is I just keep a very updated Goodreads account because, updating my Goodreads, my read books, my want to read list, that all keeps me motivated to read more often. So definitely change the genres of the books you read, rotate them, have a Goodreads account, and get involved with the reading community. Take some notes if you have the time to. That's also really fun. I do not think I have the time to take notes on the books that I like to read, but if I did, that's something that I definitely would do to keep me more interested in the books I'm reading. Did you need higher grades to be a professor? Yes. You need higher grades. You need like a very specific grade or up to be a professor. And because I had my first 2 years of law school were really, I would not say really bad, but they were worse than my third and my fourth year at law school, because at the beginning, That's the reason why I started this channel. I didn't know how to study. I didn't know anything about study methods. So in the beginning, my grades were a lot worse than they were afterwards, but I was never able to compensate for those two, those two first years. That first and that second year, I was never able to compensate, and that's why my grades never got to the point that they allowed me to be a professor. Will I watch the Euro final? No. It's because, first of all, I really do not care about football. I only care when Portugal, plays. And because we are already out of the competition, I will not watch it anymore. I'm very boring, just like that. Do you think in English or in Portuguese? Both of them, actually. I think it depends on the topic. For instance, YouTube, because everything related to my YouTube channel is in English, I mostly think about projects, new videos, things I need to discuss with someone in English. But, for instance, things related to my job, which is mostly in Portuguese, I would probably think in Portuguese. What is your advice to someone who feels stuck and aimless at the age of 24, 25? When I was 24 years old, let me just calculate my age back then. So when I was 24 years old, that's when I went through my biggest crisis in terms of what the hell did I want to do with my life. If I remember correctly, at 24 years old, that's when I finished law school, like the 4 years, and then I finished my master's. And that's when I started writing my thesis. And when I started writing my thesis, I actually was unemployed. Of course, I did YouTube, but I didn't do anything in my field of work. And I thought for like a year of what the hell that I wanted to do. Because as I was saying, I really wanted to get involved in academia, but I wasn't able to because the grades you need for that need to be really high. And I didn't have those grades. But that was what I wanted to do. But I knew I couldn't do it, or else I would have to, redo my degree, which is completely unattainable. So I was like, okay, I can't do this. So what the hell can I do to be a happy person? So I think that I was writing my thesis and I was searching for so many jobs and so many career paths. And I think that I never reached a specific conclusion. What I did was I found something that was a little bit closer to my values and I applied for that job. And that's what I do right now. If you ask me if this is my dream job, it is not. It's not my dream job. If you ask me what my dream job is, I think I'm still not really sure. So what I think is you need to take it one step at a time, talk to people, really research and investigate for your options. But never feel like your option, the next step you take, will make you stuck. Because you'll never be stuck. You'll always be able to move forward with your options. Just try to find something that aligns with your values and with your knowledge and with your education. And then, you can always move forward. Never try to find the specific solution for all of your problems, because I really do not believe that exists. I think it's pretty unattainable. It creates a lot of stress, and you can do better than that. You can just take it slowly. I've been subscribed to your channel since your first video. Well, that was a long time ago. A lot has changed since 2015, 6 years ago. Do you have any tips to deal with lack of success and feeling like you're deteriorating even with a lot of effort? I feel that a lot with YouTube. I feel like, being honest here, I see a lot of channels that have grown a whole lot more than mine did. And sometimes I really do not know what to do with this channel, because although I really enjoy making videos, sometimes I do not know what is the best approach, what are the best topics, and I try to take it one step at a time. But sometimes I feel like, even though I know this is really weird, right? Because I have 600,000 subscribers, but in terms of metrics and in terms of analytics, my channel is kind of flopping this year. So of course there's a lot of stress involved, and there's a lot of overthinking. But I think that what I do is I just move forward and I just try to do something a little bit better every single day. So even if I don't have the time to do a video or to produce a whole brainstorming document every single day, and of course I can't, maybe there will be in some days I'll try to change the title of a video that is underperforming, or I'll try to change the thumbnail of a video which is underperforming. So I'll try to do something, a tiny thing every single day that will make me better. And that's how I try to deal with lack of success. Are you considering doing a PhD? I am. I'm thinking financial law. The thing is, I do not have enough experience to actually produce a good thesis right now. So that's why I want to wait a little bit more and try to, really come up with a topic that allows me to write something great and something that actually adds value, instead of just writing for the sake of writing. Are you married? Not yet. How did you meet your fiance? So basically, that's a very short story. He was, how do I say this in English? Wait. Okay, so he was the president of the student union, right? And I worked for him. That's pretty much it. So what I did was I made the videos for the union. I made the, any kind of advertising for events and things like that. And he was the president, and we actually liked to work together. That's how we met. Have you ever thought of doing live study with me? As I was saying before, I really want to do 1 or 2, because I'm going to take a couple of courses that are really random for me. But I think some study will be involved, and because they're online classes, maybe I can actually record not the classes themselves, but like me taking the class and taking notes and studying while the class is taking place. Maybe that can be kind of fun, because maybe if you are taking an online class, maybe you can study with me as I'm taking mine. So that's a plan for the summer or early September. Hands down, favorite live I've ever been on. Very cozy, like talking with a friend. That's exactly what I wanted to do with this live. So I'm very happy you feel that way. What is the time there in Portugal? It's 9:31 right now, 9 p.m. 31. How is your Japanese language learning going? It's not going at all. It does not exist right now. I really don't have the time to do any more language learning. So for some of you, probably all of you who don't know this, I just moved this year. I was living in Lisbon in a tiny apartment, and I moved and I was hopping around in different places for a whole, around 6 months. And I finally have my office, which is the room that you're seeing right here. It's very empty. That's why there's a lot of echo in this room right now. But because I'm organizing the house, there's some renovations that are, they're happening right now. And they need a lot of planning, and I need to organize everything. And then there's a lot of packing that needs to be undone. And so I'm trying to, prioritize getting my space right now. And after my space is a little bit better and I'm actually equipped with the tools, and the space I need to do more productive, more creative work, I want to restart my language learning journey, which is something that I really enjoyed when I was doing it. But life has been so hectic lately that I'm not able to accomplish everything I need to accomplish. So I'm trying to cut off on things that are not essential, at least for my 2 jobs and for my well-being. Any plans of collaborating with other study productivity related YouTubers? Nothing on the works. But if you want me to collaborate with someone, go tell them. Maybe they will send me an email. Who knows? Is this your first video chat? Because it seems there are no other chats in your previous videos. This is not my first live stream, but it's like my second one. So you're not too far off. Ever thought of setting up a Discord for your community? That's actually a great idea. I mean, I know Discord, but I never thought of setting one for my community only. Did you benefit from the pandemic in any way? No, definitely not. I mean, YouTube is not better because of the pandemic. Actually, it's a lot worse. I think that TikTok is also cannibalizing YouTube in many different ways. And, people have other concerns right now than learning how to organize their calendar and learning how to organize their to-do list. So in that sense, I really did not benefit from the pandemic in any possible way. Fun fact, the only reason I have millions of colored pens is because of you. Fun fact, I do not have million colored pens anymore because I really do not think, 2021, Mariana does not think that you need millions of colored pens to be successful. That was me going into the study blur, the blur of the study blur. That was me in 2015. I will not say I'm not proud of it because why not? I actually was very motivated because of it. But right now, a lot of years later, I think that it's a little bit too much. So try to minimize, because your success and your grades are not dictated by how many pens you have, how many bullet journal templates you have. I think it's all in your head. But on the other hand, if you really think that using colored pens and all of that colorful stationery really helps you, then I think doing so is something great. If it's kind of a technique for you to foster a good studying environment, you should definitely continue doing so. What note-taking apps and to-do list apps do you use? So for Notion, sorry. I take notes on Notion. I write my to-dos on Notion. If I'm not using Notion, I will definitely use a notebook to write to-do lists, and I'll use mostly Google Calendar to schedule every tiny single thing, task, chore, anything related to work. It will be on my Google Calendar. So Google Calendar and Notion. Lisbon or Porto. And I'll say Porto because I hate when people say "ho Porto." I don't understand why is there a no there. Where did the O come from? Why is it "oh Porto"? So Lisbon, definitely Lisbon. Lisbon is better. Lisbon is great. Speaking Portuguese. Ok, vou falar português outra vez. Olá a todos os portugueses e a todos os brasileiros e todas as pessoas que não são portugueses nem brasileiros, mas percebem o que eu estou a dizer neste preciso momento. Obrigada pelo vosso apoio. Obrigada por estarem aqui, apesar de eu continuar a teimar em falar uma língua que não é a minha. Gosto muito de vocês. Mas agora vou ter de continuar a falar inglês, senão toda a gente vai se embora deste live stream. Portanto, vou agora mudar de língua. So for all of you who are English, I just said a bunch of random things in Portuguese. So don't worry, I didn't say anything very special. How long have you been journaling? I journal on and off. It depends on my mood. I started as a challenge this year, and then because of the whole moving situation, I lost my journal in a box for 2 months, and then I have it again. But actually, I haven't, gained the habit back of journaling again. So that's something I need to start again. What would you say to your old self? Don't worry too much. That's definitely my first and probably only advice for my old self. Planners you recommend for college? Do you mean paper planners or digital planners? Are you still digital planning? What do you mean by digital planning? Do you mean using an iPad with a PDF file where I'm writing on top of the PDF file with good notes? Do you mean using Google Calendar, Notion? Because right now I'm using mostly Google Calendar to schedule anything. I'm using Notion for project planning, brainstorming, keeping lists, and I'm using a notebook to write meeting notes or just like that kind of random thing that goes through your mind during the day. But I'm not using a digital planner with an Apple Pencil and the Good Notes app anymore. I love the Portuguese language and I want to learn it. Why do you advise me to learn the Portuguese language? I actually have no advice for you, and that's because I only I only have the perspective of a native speaker. I never had to learn Portuguese. And what I hear from people who are not Portuguese, that Portuguese is actually a very hard language to learn. So I think that if you need advice on learning Portuguese, I would say try to find a community of people who want to speak Portuguese because it'll have a lot of resources for you. But if I could give some general advice, I would say try to get involved in the language. Come to Portugal. We need your money because we're a poor country. But come to Portugal, try to talk with the natives. People are generally very nice to foreigners and they will try to communicate and explain things. And I would say watch movies, but there are not really a lot of Portuguese movies. And I also don't know if you're trying to watch, if you're trying to learn, European Portuguese or Brazilian Portuguese, because if you're trying to learn Brazilian Portuguese, there's a lot of resources. You can actually use Duolingo for that right now. And there's a bunch of movies, and there's a bunch of series, and there's a bunch of novelas which you can watch to get involved in the language. So you no longer digital plan with the Foans planner. No, I do not. And the planner is amazing. And I really, really recommend it for anyone who's trying to plan digitally with an iPad. But as I was, going through experimenting with the Foans planner for a long period of time, I just had to admit to myself that nothing works as better. Nothing works for me as good as Google Calendar does. So Natasha is asking how much time I spend planning each week. I don't plan every single week. What I do is I plan every single day. And what I usually do is every single morning before I start working, I open my Google Calendar and I look at what it's in my Google Calendar. And I actually leave my Google Calendar open all day long because my Google Calendar has all of my tasks for the day, including my work-related tasks, household chores. It actually has my meal planning there in my lunch break sections. It has my workouts. It has my YouTube-related stuff. So I leave my Google Planner open every single day during my whole day, and I just check it. I keep checking my Google Calendar. I add things, I delete things. So, I don't have a fixed time of the day or the week to plan. I just keep doing it over and over during the day. So I'm like constantly recycling, my events, changing things, everything. What anime do you watch? I watch a lot of things. This may sound a little bit weird for some people, but I'm actually a huge anime fan. So, what have I been watching lately that I've really, really enjoyed? So, one of the anime that I watched is Kaguya-sama. I've actually read the whole manga, and it's still being updated right now, but it's great. And I just watched the last season of Attack on Titan last week, and because of the fact that Attack on Titan was, I think it first aired on 2013. I don't remember a lot of the background, and because of how the story interconnects, I started watching the whole thing again last week. So currently watching Attack on Titan. Before that, I tried to watch Fruits Basket, but I didn't enjoy it. And another thing that I really liked to watch was, yeah, what was it called? It was called I shaved. It was called I shaved, and then I met a teenage girl, something like that. It sounds really weird. It's not. It's actually very. It's great. I really enjoyed it. Brandon says chores suck. I don't recommend them. They do suck. I actually don't like them either, but we have to do them. It's mandatory, you know. With the growth of cyber attacks, do you think that cloud storage will still be used in the future? I do, because independently of clouds of cyber attacks, cloud storage completely changed the way people work and the way people storage information. So I don't think that cloud storage will go anywhere. I just think that companies will start really reinforcing cloud storage security. How to deal with ever-changing priorities at work? As I was saying like an hour ago, it's almost 10 here. It's so weird. When this is like my second or third live stream, but every time I live stream, time just goes like this. I don't even see it going. It's not outside. When I started this live stream, it was still, there was still sun, no light anymore. But as I was saying, changing priorities at work, that's the thing I hate the most, because I'm kind of a control freak. I like to organize my priorities. I like to organize my time. And because, I work in an environment with colleagues and with, a hierarchy, I can't manage my priorities all the time. So what do? I rant on the inside. Sometimes I rant on the outside. I take a deep breath. I exercise a lot so that I don't freak out all the time. But unfortunately, there's nothing active that I usually am able to do to deal with changing priorities. I just have to accept them. Have you watched Naruto and Death Note? I've watched Death Note and I really, really love it. It's great. Naruto is a bit overwhelming for me because it's so long. I have friends who are watching it right now, and even they are overwhelming by the amount of information story that there is. I think I need a lot of courage to start watching it because it's so long. Watching anything on Netflix? Nope, not right now. One very interesting thing I noticed about channels that have been growing fast is that they seem to all have cinema-like videos, like Matt Diavela, for example. Yeah, and the thing is, Matt Diavela is actually a filmmaker. So he started being noticed because he actually he created 2 documentaries with the minimalists. So he's fantastic. He has a lot of experience. His background is filmmaking, so he's great. And of course, his videos sound and look fantastic. Unfortunately, not all of us have a filmmaking background. I don't. So I still have the same camera I had when, not when I started, but I have the same camera from before I moved out, so that means I have the same camera at least since 2016. So I have a 5-year-old camera, and it's not even 4K. So unfortunately, I mean, I think YouTube cannot survive only on people who have filmmaking backgrounds. Maybe that's where YouTube is going, but if it is, I think that a lot of us will not survive on YouTube because, for instance, for myself, I have a job. I cannot go to filmmaking school. I can't take a bunch of courses on filmmaking because that's not my background and that's not my purpose on YouTube. So if what happens to YouTube is YouTube starts cannibalizing channels with, I mean, in a sense, lower quality, that means that YouTube will be like a platform, an almost professional platform. If it is what it is, maybe a bunch of us will just be eaten out by that competition. Someone is mentioning Horimiya. Horimiya is actually great as well. I actually really enjoyed it, although I did not like the way it ended because it kind of seemed a little bit pointless. But I think that's because the manga hasn't finished yet, and so sometimes they just cut the series in a weird place. And of course, people should go and read the stuff, but we don't, and then that's all we have is the anime. But I enjoyed the episodes. Someone saying, please consider video schedules. I mean, I don't need a schedule because I will definitely always post a video on Saturday. Saturday. I don't even know how to speak anymore. I will always post a video on Saturday. Sometimes it's on a Sunday. That's when I'm really, really, really late. Usually it doesn't happen that often, but you can always expect a video on the weekend. What are you most excited about in the second half of 2021? I'm really excited about being vaccinated next week because I need to have a life. I mean, we all need to have a life. I need to have a life. Of course, I only get the first dose next week, but it's better than nothing, I guess. I agree that Orimi ended so and wish they had done it better. I also heard there will be no season two. There never is. Sometimes they just put the first season out there and then it just gets short. For instance, in Kaguya-sama, I think they will, I can't actually see when they are going to finish the anime, looking back at the manga series. And I hate that because there's a lot of great content after that specific chapter. And I hate it, but I know that's how it works, but I hate it. Do you take a tonic? How are you never tired? I'm tired a lot. I'm a tired person. I mean, I sleep my 7 hours of sleep and I take my cup of coffee in the morning and I try to exercise, but I do feel tired. I do feel overwhelmed a lot of the time. But I try to be grateful because being able to work as much as I can is actually something to be grateful for, especially when you live in a country which is, that's my experience. When you live in a country where there's a lot of people who have trouble being employed, where the market is very saturated in some areas. And for instance, YouTube, for me, I feel very grateful for being able to still do YouTube despite everything that has been going on in the world and everything that has been going on in my life in terms of other things that keep me busy. So every time I feel overwhelmed, I try to remember that I'm lucky to be overwhelmed because I'm overwhelmed with work in a good way because I like to do what I do. I just have a lot to do all the time instead of, thinking negative thoughts. It will be mentally relaxing once you get vaccinated. I mean, with all the different types of COVID going on, and people saying that maybe the vaccine will not work, and then you need a third shot. I do not think I'll be relaxed, but at least it's like the start of a journey. One silver lining from the past 18 months. Well, one silver lining for me, and I speak from the perspective of someone who has a 9 to 5 job. I think that one of the silver linings is definitely the possibility of working from home being something a little bit more common right now. Not like in a full, not full work from home, because I think I would not enjoy working from home all the time. But a hybrid method, like for instance, you go to the office 2 or 3 times per week, and then the other days you're able to work from home. I think that would be very positive for people who have more projects on the run. But the past 18 months have been very hard. And I don't think there are many silver linings thinking of it, but working from home being a more common thing is probably one of them. I'm still waiting for Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card to be finished. Yeah, definitely. I watched that one. I remember when I was waiting to get a call to, be from sorry, I can't speak anymore. I remember I was watching Sakura when I was waiting to be called for my current job. And I was like in the couch on a summer afternoon, and I was just binge watching the whole thing because I just wanted to stop thinking about the interview. And that was actually 2 years ago, so the time flies. Could you give one advice to make time for making YouTube videos while working on a full-time job? My advice is understanding that your free time will not be as free as you want it to be. And there will be days where you'll not be able to go out with your friends, of course, no COVID, by the way. But you'll not be able to go out with your friends. There will be weekends where you'll probably have to still wake up at 6:30 to start working on YouTube and then go back to your weekends. And micromanaging your day will be something that you need to get accustomed to, because it's something that will definitely need to happen always. So practicing that micromanagement and really engaging in regular time blocking and regular time batching will really help you out in be able to, get the machine running. I'm graduating this year and I have no clue what I want to do, so I keep jumping in and out of working hard this year. Do you think I should just get a job ASAP and then go to uni after? I don't think there's a straight advice for this, because for some people, studying is kind of a chore. And if you start working and getting your paycheck, maybe that will be a way for you to avoid studying at all, because you're like, okay, I didn't go to uni. I'm working. I'm getting my paycheck. Maybe I don't need to study at all, and maybe that will deter you from going back. But if you're someone who is prone to enjoying studying, which is my case, for instance, nothing will ever deter you from studying. So maybe that's actually a good idea for you to get a job and then go back to university. But I think it really depends on the person you are. You need to look deep down and think, am I the person that when I get a paycheck, I will just abandon my idea of keep studying? Or am I the kind of person that is so curious and enjoys learning so much that despite getting that paycheck, I will still try to go to university? And that's a question that only you will be able to answer. One advice you think your 40-year-old self would say to your current self? Once again, don't stress so much and don't overthink so much. Even though I actively try to not overthink and I actively try to live at a slower pace and to pat myself on the back and give myself some grace, I usually really fail to do so. So I think that 40-year-old Mariana will look back at 26-year-old Mariana and say, why did you overthink everything so much? I think that will be the advice I would give to myself for my entire existence. So even my 6-year-old self would say that to the 40-year-old self, and the 80-year-old self would say that to the 6-year-old self. I think that's like very common for me. Tips on ending procrastination once and for all. Find motivation. Sometimes that happens online. Sometimes I procrastinate too. I'm guilty of that too. And you know what I do? I basically go watch productivity things. And you know what I like to watch? Especially when I really do not feel like cleaning, stuff like that. I watch those great Korean that have no voiceover. They're just like subtitles. They have nice music, relaxing music, and the colors are all so nice. And I watch a bunch of those videos and I immediately get up and start working around the house because I feel terrible looking at all those people working hard. I'm like, really don't want to do this. And I really don't want to clean the kitchen. And I really don't want to make lunch. So find your inspiration online. Cut back on distractions because you're way more, you're way stronger than you think in terms of avoiding distractions and actually be able to work for long stretches of time than you think. Okay, so delete distractions. Delete social media from your phone. I do not have social media on my phone anymore. I don't have a Facebook account. I do not have an Instagram account, and I should because I'm a YouTuber. I have a TikTok in the sense that it's there because I try to upload two TikToks, two talks. I don't even know what it's called but that's for purpose of this job. But you can actually live without your social media. You'll experience that and you'll see that after a week, you do not miss it at all. Sometimes it's all in your head. So try to delete the app from your phone without actually deleting your account first. Use a timer for focused work. Start with 10 minutes. Like for 10 minutes, you will work without looking at your phone. It's really easy to achieve. And then go from 10 minutes to 15 to 20 to 25 and so forth until you find your sweet spot. And just keep that motivation going and always be aligned with your goals and be very, be very active in reviewing those goals, because sometimes you just get into the gist of working and you stop thinking to yourself and asking yourself if you're working towards the right things, and you'll stop working towards the right things. So, be constantly aware of that and always try to align yourself with your goals. I'll just take 2 more questions because I've been here talking nonstop for 2 hours and I'm really tired. It's 10 p.m. right now. So if you want to know a little bit more about my evening routine, if it's 10 p.m. right now, that means that I have half an hour to change and go to bed, because tomorrow I need to wake up at 6:30 and I need to start working on a new video. And then I need to start working at around 9 a.m. So 2 more questions. The speed of change in the world is maddening. Do you think one can imagine what it would be like 10 years later? Do you think today's strategies will still work? No, I don't think today's strategies will work in 10 years. I think that like 2 years ago, there were strategies that are not working right now. So why would today's strategies work in 10 years? I think that we should never be too attached to things related to the workplace or things related to productivity, because the workplace is constantly shifting and changing. The way we work is constantly shifting and changing. And productivity is also constantly changing with technology, with the way the workplace evolves, with the way the world evolves. Because, for instance, not a couple of years ago, but a bunch of years ago, we had that standard that climbing the corporate ladder was the right thing to do. And productivity was very focused on that climbing of the corporate ladder. And right now, productivity is a little bit more focused on, sometimes you can climb the corporate ladder, but always remember to climb your own individual ladder. So definitely, I try to never get attached to methods, because I study productivity, because I need to make these videos. I can see that change constantly. And I can see that there are constantly new methods, new techniques, new studies. So definitely never attach yourself to something and believe that is the right method to work, that is the right method to, focus on your career or focus on your projects, because it's changing all the time. And just keep studying and try to stick to your gut, because your instincts will tell you what you should do with your career and your work. Okay, last question. Do you do lives often on schedule or just informally? Informally, sometimes I'll just start a live because I want to talk to you guys. Actually, this one was scheduled over on Patreon, but then I was here and then there were no patrons here. So it was like, I will open this chat to the public because I already scheduled these 2 hours to chat with you. So that was actually scheduled over on Patreon. It was not scheduled on YouTube, but this was my first, not my first, but my second live here on YouTube. So I'll do those more often now. As I was saying, because now I have an office where I can film at 10 o'clock, and I didn't have one before, but now I do. So yeah, I will end on that note. I will have more live streams in the future, because although I like to create structured videos, I also like to have this kind of a way to answer your questions directly, because it's not really easy for me all the time to create a whole video based on a question or to answer everything that comes up on my email. Sometimes it's a whole lot easier for me to just talk like this and answer your questions as you send them. So I want to thank you all for coming today, and for, because this wasn't even planned, right? So thank you for wanting to join me despite the lack of planning of this live stream. And I hope you have all a great week. I will definitely tell you when a third live stream is coming. And I love you all so much. Thank you so much for your support. And I hope you have a nice evening, if it's night, if it's evening where you live. And I hope you have a nice day, if it's still daytime where you live. So thank you all for coming. See you next time. Bye-bye.